All right. So welcome everyone to Citizens for Ormond Beach's first speaker of the speaker series for 2021. We are happy to welcome Julia Davidson Trulio. I knew I'd mess that up. I'm sorry, Julia.
Doesn't matter.
And she's the Executive Director of Ormond Beach Main Street. Quick announcement for an upcoming event for April. We'll have Patricia Boswell speaking. She's the administrator for the Volusia County Health Department. She's going to be talking to us about vaccine administration and COVID-19, hopefully wrapping it up in April. So that is scheduled for April 14th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Mute everybody. And I'm going to spotlight Julia. There you are. Oops. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So Julia, thank you for coming to our group. A little background on Julia for everyone. She's a native of Daytona Beach, grew up in the newspaper business, the fourth generation of Davidsons at the Daytona Beach News Journal. Her heart, however, led her to the stage, and she spent 20 years in the entertainment industry singing, acting, and producing, and running theater companies, small and large. And Julie, it's interesting because when I pulled up your picture, it clicked for me, and I realized that I saw you several times at the City Repertory Theater in Palm Coast.
Right.
Yep. Julia has a master's in journalism from Columbia University, and she returned to Volusia County after receiving her degree as the managing director of Seaside Music Theater. In 2012, she became the executive director of Ormond Beach Main Street, where she focuses on the growth and development of Ormond Beach's historic core community. Ormond Beach Main Street is a 25-year-old organization. It's a nonprofit. It partners with the city of Ormond Beach in the development of the downtown CRA district. If you received our email about this presentation, it has an outline of exactly where that downtown CRA district is. Ormond Beach Main Street sponsors the Farmers Market at City Hall and multiple events in Ormond Beach. In addition to being executive director of Ormond Beach Main Street, Julia has served her community, or our community, in many different organizations, including the Ormond Beach Chamber of Commerce, Ormond Beach Memorial Art Museum and Gardens, Volusia County Cultural Alliance, and she also served on the Cultural Council of Volusia County, the county's original ECHO Steering Committee, and Bethune-Cookman University's Performing Arts Center Board. We are very happy to have you here, Julia. Thank you so much for coming and telling us what Ormond Beach Main Street has been doing and what we can expect in the future.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I apologize in advance if you suddenly have a loud motorcycle in this conversation. I'm in my office, and we're right across the crosswalk from the grind, so people tend to stop and rev their motors right outside my window. So I apologize in advance. Liz, have you given me the ability to share my screen? Let's see if it'll work. Nope. You need to, if you
move your cursor down to the bottom of the page, and it might pop up.
Liz has to let me. Oh, now I got it. Now I got it. All right. And again, we hope this works. Okay. For some reason, it's being weird. Nope, it won't let me.
It won't let you.
Screen sharing has failed to start.
Huh.
Whatever that means. Let me try a different. Oh, there we go. It just didn't like the. I'm working on a monitor and a laptop, and sometimes it likes one and sometimes it likes the other. You'll forgive me, some of you I know a lot of this information, so I'm going to cruise through fairly quickly, but I know that the concept of Main Street is not familiar to everybody. And so I didn't want to assume that you knew everything about us. So Main Street conceptually comes from the idea that post-suburbanization ideas that downtowns are important, an integral part of making a successful city. That moving everything out to the mall was a terrible disaster for many cities, and robbed them of their vitality, of their efficacy, and of their usefulness. So the Main Street program has been run out of Washington, D.C. For 40 years. We are Main Street America members and also Florida Main Street members. And we follow their program of work. So what makes a vibrant, livable community? Well, we all need things that we already have, some of the things we already have right here in Ormond Beach. We are fortunate that we have retained civic center activity right here in the heart of Ormond Beach. So we have the library, we have historical art places, we have riverside parks, we have city services like the police department that automatically bring people into this part of town. We have 217 businesses. 85% of them employ less than 20 people. This is in the district. Lots of people come here to work. We'd like it if some of them lived here, but lots of them come down to work every day. And local events bring residents and visitors into the downtown space. Liz was discussing the footprint. Here's our footprint, odd though it may be. It is essentially A1A to Orchard Street and 1 block in either direction, though you can see over here it's a little wider. It's the same footprint as the community redevelopment area, which when that was drawn in the 80s, was the idea was that you would to exclude all residents, as many residences as you could, that they was supposed to be just a business district. Now common wisdom is that you should include residences because of course their feeling about what happens right next to them is important. So iconic places, I'm pretty sure that all of you could tell me exactly where these places are without even thinking about it. Lots of shopping and dining. Lots of downtown events. I included these two because we don't do either one. Neither one of these are mine. So lots of people are doing events in our parks and in downtown. Lots of people in downtown. More than 3,000 people work in this district. 1,300 housing units, despite the exclusion of many more, and more than 200 businesses. We are a nonprofit. Say that over and over again because I think a lot of people assume that we are a part of government. We are not a part of government. We are a separate 501c3 nonprofit. It was founded in 1995. The group that put us together was looking for a way to replace input to the city from citizens. That was one of their goals, was that they could represent citizens' ideas to the city. It's totally run by volunteers. We have 2 employees. Becky Parker and I are the 2 working folks here. Everybody else is a volunteer. And those volunteers log more than 8,000 hours every year in volunteer time. And we work with all the downtown stakeholders, whether they are members or not, whether they live or work right here or not. So here they are: government, all the citizens of Ormond Beach. Specifically, we work with downtown businesses and downtown residents. Our board is a stakeholder, and the people who come here every day to work. Just get this one over. We don't have Main Street. This is a perfect weekend to replace, to say to yourself every evening, this is not Main Street. This is not Main Street. There are no, somebody told me that there are women in, basically naked women in cages in Daytona Beach this week on the corners of Main Street, and you put money in their cage. Interesting. So that's a new one. I haven't been to Bike Week in a long time. So obviously our Main Street is Granada Boulevard, and it's the same footprint as the CRA, the taxing district. Our mission is pretty simple: vibrant downtown community. So following the footsteps of the National Main Street program, we focus on economic vitality through historic preservation, reuse, and redevelopment. Work on beautification and a physically attractive and safe downtown, and do events and branding and marketing to bring people to use the things that we have. At the national level, they call it the 4-point approach, and you can see those there. So economic vitality, that's a pretty broad spectrum, but positive image, job opportunities. Somebody saw this slide and said, in what way does economic development preserve the community's historic resources? And the answer is it does if you do it right. We encourage people to come use the buildings that are here, to restore them, to reimagine them, to improve them, but not knock them down and bring us something else. And we're encouraging by keeping foot traffic high, keeping people coming to the district. We encourage local businesses to grow. Hull's Seafood added 110 seats, more than tripling their size when they expanded. The Children's Workshop on Lincoln, if you know it, the preschool, was able to double its size in the last 5 years. I hope some of you have been to the beautifully renewed Fountain Square Shops, where Joy Myers has taken over that space, which was pretty much headed for the wrecking ball, and revivified it with new shops and new tenants. And I'm sure after COVID is done, there will be a new restaurant upstairs. This is the parenthetical phrase in here. I'm describing our program of work as if it was completely uninterrupted by having a pandemic, and of course it wasn't. We have worked especially hard, I think, with our merchants and small businesses over the past year. We did a lot of new thinking, got ourselves out of our ruts, as everyone has, to reshape the way we communicated with the public, to help our businesses reshape the way they communicated with the public. Interestingly enough, the first week in March last year, we put on a seminar for any downtown business that wanted to attend, and we had about 25, a full day seminar on marketing and social media. And we gave away grants for people who came up with new marketing plans. And then on March, what was it, 13th or 14th? It was St. Patrick's Day, I think. That was the end of that. But those marketing grants were used by the 3 businesses that won them to do interesting new things that they used them for, to reach out electronically to their shoppers. And we have been very lucky, I think, in terms of our businesses. We've only lost 4 retail businesses on the street in this past year directly to COVID. And many towns are seeing up to 20% loss in their small businesses. So we did everything we could think of. Becky and I even did weekly video updates for our merchants, which were, I think we had 2 groupies that watched all of them. The rest of them just kind of smiled at us. But we've learned that we are not vloggers, or that's not going to be our new profession. We're going to stick with what we got. And I left this in because I love this statistic, and I hope you know it. Why buy local? It's pretty obvious. The money stays right here. And I'm just started to read a new book about, it's called Invest Where You Live, and setting up small donor funds that help. You can use your money locally to help local businesses. So if I learn something fascinating, I will let you know. And of course, in good times, we do events. Big ones, small ones, medium-sized ones. It's one of the ways that main streets bring people into the town. And our farmers market took about a month and a half off, but it's been going ever since. All of my other events, my Celtic Festival, Riverfest, Taste, these are on hold at the moment. Taste, we hope, will be on May 23rd, which normally in March. We were able to do a tiny version of Granada Grand, sort of not what we dubbed Granada Not Quite So Grand, but experimenting with safety precautions, masking, spacing, etc. So we're still out there doing these things. But the reason to do events is not just to have a party. That's the reason right there. 40,000 people every year who might not otherwise come to downtown. Regional visitors as well as local. And when you're downtown, you see things that you might not see as you breeze past in your automobile. And one of the things that we found, especially in the farmers market, is that we have local entrepreneurs who are developing product in the farmers market. Steel Oak Coffee, if any of you are a fan, started in the farmers market. And it's great to watch those businesses find their footing and move out and get brick and mortar spaces, or as Steel Oak has. I always point out Gold Leaf Coffee because it's my favorite symbiotic relationship. The frame shop invited the coffee shop in. The coffee shop bought its pastry from Cakery Creation next door, and it's coffee from a local roaster, so that we're building a local economy. And we kept trying with events. When the city canceled its, go back. Don't do that. I like that slide. When the Christmas parade was canceled, we looked around for things that could be done that would be safe for people to come, that wouldn't require them to crowd in. So we partnered with the library and with Casements to do the holiday story stroll in Rockefeller Gardens. More than 3,000 people over the 3 weeks that stroll was up. More than 3,000 people, mostly families, saw our big book pages around the Christmas tree. The parade committee put together Merry and Bright on Main Street, which was a light up competition, and the city paid for the prizes, which was great. And both of those events are already in planning stages to be renewed next year, even when the parade comes back. We like them a lot. And as I mentioned, we reimagined Granada Grand, so it went over to New Britain Avenue and got very spacious between the vendors. We do branding and marketing. We spend about $50,000 a year bringing people into the town. We created a new brand for the destination in 2019, and you're starting to see that on the light poles downtown. You see the new flags that identify downtown, beachside, and the bridge itself. Those names were the result of both this consultant, but also the downtown master plan update that was done in 2019. And a very strong feeling that the people on beachside did not want to be called downtown. They felt they were their own place. And so they are now beachside, historic downtown, and the Gateway District, which is what we christened west of US 1. I personally wanted to, history fans wanted to call it Frog Eye, but I couldn't get anybody to go with me for that, which is what it was. That was the name of the community way back. The original name of that little part of town was Frog Eye. So nobody went for that. And we partner with all these media organizations, so we are able to leverage in-kind contributions from them to make our reach much wider. So we'll start seeing these logos and these new ideas popping up everywhere. And our reach has really grown. Our stuff is getting in front of a lot of eyeballs, and I think is helping drive, I hope is helping drive traffic to our businesses. That was a big one. All right, so design is the next committee and the next focus. And so that's a continuous, and I know something that you guys are very interested in. So a continuous angle for us. So here's West Granada before the latest streetscape. And does anybody remember the wires? I so happily forget that we had wires on our street. So. We talked about this, renovation and reuse of existing buildings as part of the design scheme for downtown. When possible, bringing the buildings that are behind parking lots back to the street when they are rebuilt, so that we create a more urban look for the area. It's really more of a problem on beachside. I don't think that will ever happen west of US 1. Those many large shopping centers, I don't think are going to be replaced, but there are potential for buildings to come closer to the sidewalk on beachside. Shared parking. There are 350 spaces, available parking spaces between the river and Washington. So in the 2 blocks between along Granada, between City Hall, the school parking lot, other public parking, there are more than 300 spaces. And so we're going to have to learn to share parking, and we're also going to have to learn to walk to where we're going, I think. Interesting and inviting building fronts. And of course, mixed use properties. We want to bring people to live downtown. And I've tossed this last one on here because I don't know, you can take my simple layman's version for this. A form-based code, which has been adopted for the downtown overlay district, is a code where my best example is if you're building a kitchen. So the range hood, the exhaust fan, all those pieces and parts dictate to the builder what things have to look like, because that is a function-based code. we are, for downtown, we prefer a form-based code, which means buildings closer to the street. It has the appropriate fronts for the right kind of windows, etc., as opposed to you need to put your kitchen hood in the front. So the downtown does in fact have a slightly different building code than the rest of Ormond Beach. So some great examples. In 1987, 2016, and when Louis Heister redid this building, he maintained the architectural detail of those recessed doors. Many places where that happened, they would just make the flat front. He did a lot of restoration inside. You can't really see that, of course, but this building was in not such great repair, and he did a lot of restoration to keep the building looking pristine. So why? What does it matter? What does it matter what we look like? More first-time visitors, higher rental rates. But the big one is that if your neighbor looks great, it encourages you to also do something about your building. And that psychological impact is enormous. That community pride and engagement. Or if you refuse to do something about your building, it encourages your neighbors to lean on you and say, hey, fix that up. So Granada Plaza, not perhaps an architectural gem, but certainly looks a lot better under its rehab than it did prior. So why are we doing all this? What do we want out of this? Definitely a better pedestrian experience, which means a lot of these things are givens. Traffic calming, parking plan. We are very focused on increasing the amount of public art in the district. Public art, not only is it nice to have, but public art offers us an opportunity to stop and look at things at a pedestrian level, to create pedestrian level interest on a street. The element of visual surprise is one of those things that can't be replaced. Think of how many times you drive from your home to your workplace, and think about when was the last time you looked at a detail. You're usually involved in thinking about something else, or driving, you're late, or you're thinking about what you're having for dinner, or all those other things. And we get this vision, this tunnel vision of, I'm looking at the road, I'm not seeing what goes by me. This is my 9th year at Main Street. I started my 9th year in, I'm 9.5 now. I started in August. And in the first week that I came to work, I called every one of my board members, and I said, reintroduced myself and said, please tell me what you think about what's going on with Main Street. How's this? What's happening? And one of the board members, soon to be ex-board members, said, I don't know what all this fuss is about. There's no reason to stop anywhere on Granada. I just want to get in my car and drive as quickly as possible from my house to the country club and get out. I thought, why are you on a downtown committee if all you want to do is drive through it? And I think that maybe that comment has informed all my 9 years at Main Street, because I don't want anybody to drive through it. I want people to see it. And public art is a huge part of that. Historic preservation is a part of maintaining our sense of place. If we lost the McDonald House, we would lose part of our sense of place. if we lost Billy's, or we lost some of the places that we associate with Ormond Beach, we would be much the worse for it. Better to improve and retain those spaces. And of course, we think more should be done with our waterfront parks. So what are we doing now? Traffic calming and pedestrian safety are number one. We continue to nudge, bully, remind, fill in the blank word, our friends at the city and at FDOT that we want to see something positive happening with Granada Boulevard. We are about half, for those of you who have not, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't write slang on here, Florida Department of Transportation is FDOT. For those of you who are not familiar with the wheels of the Florida Department of Transportation, they grind extremely slow. Nothing happens in a hurry at FDOT. And I know, like Norm, I know you've worked on some projects that have involved them. So we are now in our third year of asking them for a study to put a mid-block crossing on East Granada. The distance between Halifax Avenue and A1A is greater than their own rules will allow. It's a longer stretch without a pedestrian crossing than their own rules dictate, but they still, they're getting there, little tiny steps. I know that the city manager and several of her engineering department folks took the new Florida Department of Transportation District 5 commissioner on a driving tour and pointed that out to him. So at least we are still talking about it, and we will continue to insist. I think one of the things that I should say is that in a way, in many ways, we are very much like CFOB. We see issues that we want to change, and so we gather opinions, we listen to what people are interested in, and then we nudge. We call the city, we call the commissioners, we try to work with them on projects when we can, but our point of view is that we want some of these things accomplished, and we continue to work on that. Lee knows because one of her images will be on them. Thank you, Lee. We are working with the city and the Ormond Beach Arts District. We will be wrapping all the signal boxes with wonderful images by 9 of our Ormond master artists. So that I hope will be going through be done through the summer, and we'll be done. We serve as the review committee for the Building Improvements Grants program, but there has not been much activity in the COVID period. We advocate for the preservation of historic structures, and we work closely with the Historical Society. And we are passionate about waterfront park improvements. I wanted to let you guys know, you're the first, this is our breaking news. We have asked the city to create a survey for Casson Park, a citizen survey, and that will roll out on next Monday, the 15th. So it'll be an electronic survey. I hope you guys will share it and get people to respond to it. But we will also have it, one of the things that we worked out is that there will be signage in the park. So you don't have to see it on Facebook or get an email. If you're a park user, because those are the people that I think really we need to be talking to intently. there are signs in the park that will say, it's not what they say exactly, but sort of, you know, there could be a bench here. What would you like to see? Click the QR code and take the survey. You know, this could be another parking space. Click the QR code and take the survey. Would you like to see a tree here? You know, take the survey. So hopefully we will get a lot of the folks who actually use Casson to respond. And then once we do that first round, which will last a couple of weeks, we will help them produce some kind of a report from that, and also perhaps do a second tier of survey. You'll notice the survey asks if you'd like to continue to participate, then you have to put in, you don't have, it's an anonymous response, but there's an opportunity to continue to participate and to be part of a, eventually we hope, a public in-person meeting for the park, so that this kind of got started during the downtown master plan update in 2019. The guy who they hired as the consultant pointed out that the parks, at least on this side of the bridge, I'm sorry, you don't know that I'm on the west side of the bridge. The parks on the west side of the bridge are not welcoming from the street. He said they're set up with barriers to visibility of the water from the street side, and that the between the hedges and the cars and the things that were between Beach Street and the water, there wasn't much that invited people into those parks, and that started a great conversation about, well, how would we fix that? What is possible, and then how could that be turned into a plan? And so there are no fixed plans for the park right now, except they did hire somebody to redesign and make a plan for a new bait shop, because during the last major hurricane, the bait shop was flooded. Part of it was underwater. It's too close to the river. So that is done, but the park's plan itself is not in any way done, and that's why we need public input for that. So I'm really happy that Main Street has pushed that forward, and that we will be getting more input there. Who pays for all this? You know, a lot of this stuff's really expensive. Who's paying for it? You may know, you may not. So we're a nonprofit. If it's a project that we do, that we pay for, we raise the money for it. I have sponsors and donors and begging tours, and we raise money through our events, but we pay for projects that we do. City projects that we advise on or that we nag for, like the Lincoln Avenue Park, if you guys are familiar with that beautiful little pocket park that was created to cover drainage, the new floating dock, the very extensive streetscape with palm trees and everything that was done in 2017. Those dollars come directly, in addition to the grant money they get, those dollars come from the Community Redevelopment Area funds. And Community Redevelopment Area is a taxing district. It was founded, as I said before, in 1984. And those dollars must be spent in the district where they're generated. So Ormond Beach has two CRAs. They have one on the north corridor of US 1, and they have this one. So money that comes into the north corridor pot cannot be spent here, and vice versa. So the idea of CRAs is that they provide infrastructure money to the districts that need them. So in 1984, when this district was created, this area was quite blighted. I don't know how many of you remember what Ormond Beach was like in 1984, but There was fading retail, not much in the way of restaurants, and a real flight from this neighborhood. So the CRA was created. It's a state created fund with the, so it controls funds, property taxes that go out, that come back from the county of Volusia to be spent here. It's a proportion, it's proportional based on the original base rate for the property taxes, and then the increase comes back during the term of the CRA. I know that's clear as mud, I'm sorry. But the point is the dollars have to be spent where they are generated, or they must be returned to the county as property taxes. So what are we working on? That went backwards. Why did it go backwards? All right. And if you're interested in what the city is spending its CRA dollars on, the CRA has its own budget meetings during the spring when the city is having theirs. All the projects that they intend to spend the money on are discussed. They build a 5-year projection for projects because they need to know what to prioritize with the money they get that year. So they rank the projects, and that's all done as a part of the regular budget process in the spring. So it's a good thing to keep your eye on if you're interested in what's happening with downtown. They're use it or lose it funds. So you can either use them now, or you can, the way they have stormwater money is put aside for when they're ready to do the next phase of the project. But if they don't have it earmarked, it goes back to the county. And we only have till 2036. So not many more years of this. In 2036, the CRA will sunset, and the state legislature at the moment is not interested in extending CRAs. They don't like CRAs, and they're not letting us make more, and they're not letting us extend ours. So what will happen after 2036 is yet to be seen. All right, so there's a ton more in downtown that still needs to be done. We need your help. If you are interested in serving on a committee, giving me your opinion, coming in and talking to me and finding out more about what I know, I am delighted to do that. I am extremely invested in making our work the work that of the community. That we serve the footprint. That is our job, is to work within this footprint. So I try not to get just too distracted by things that are going on elsewhere, but if you have ideas for what should and could and you would love to see happen right here in this corridor between A1A and Orchard, I want to hear about it, because we are always looking for the next thing. Main Street teaches their guiding principle is small steps forward. Don't try to eat the elephant all at once. So we are always looking for the new step. So I would love to hear from all of you. And now I am happy to take questions.
Thanks, Julia. I was really interested in hearing about the public art. I'm looking forward to that. I've often thought that we needed more public art in Ormond and all cities. I remember traveling Europe, and they had the cows that were decorated and things like that, to unite the community. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, my heart is set on something that involves the bridge. Mm-hmm. I think that there's so much opportunity there, and I did a bunch of research on projects, and there's so many cool things you can do with a bridge. You can paint the bottom, you can paint the top, you can put texture on it. It's just, and it's great for traffic calming.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. I know we have let me pull these up, some questions. Bill asked a few, his first question was, does Main Street have any involvement in First Saturday events?
First Saturday events. There is only one First Saturday event that I am aware of downtown, and that is our art walk, which is the first Saturday of the month. We help promote that, but the galleries themselves actually put it together.
And I understand that there's, you can travel from gallery to gallery,
Right.
bus.
So the idea, again, a COVID fatality, but before all this happened, Main Street was actually running a shuttle bus between each of the galleries, because one of the galleries is over in Granada Plaza, that's Ocean Art Gallery, and the others are on this side. So we tried to encourage folks to park once and ride around. There's wine at all those galleries, so it's nice to be able to take a bus when you want to. And public transportation like that is a dream, because we, to have a small shuttle service that would take us back and forth across to beachside and downtown would be a great thing to do. And there are new electric vehicles that are maybe good for that.
Could I make a comment, Julia?
Sure.
I really missed one of my favorite events, and I don't know exactly if it was a Main Street event or not, but I absolutely love Starry Starry Night.
That's a cooperative event. We do that with the Casements and the museum and the Historical Society, but since all three of those brick and mortar places were under construction this year, it seemed like a good year to skip it.
The other thing that I'd like to mention, and I don't have the time or the involvement to do anything, but because of the way Ormond Beach developed historically, there was the main street from the old train station to the Ormond Hotel and the bridge and the ensuing business development that took place between those. But, I think Liz mentioned Europe, and all of you have traveled. One of the most fascinating waterfront parks that I saw was in Lugano, Switzerland. There was a grassy park that went all along the lakefront, and then there were low-rise hotels with restaurants on the ground floor and on the second and third floor, so that people could sit at the restaurants and look out at the water. And I think it's really a shame that we have a little tiny sliver of property between, let's say, North Beach Street and the water. But and I don't know anything about this, but I lived in Japan for a year, and I noticed that there was a Japanese restaurant there that has a front patio. And theoretically, if you were eating there, you could actually look at the water. And
yes, you can.
I think that we're missing, as a town, I think we're missing some huge potential for, the bistro nightlife that I'm too old for, because there's no place where you can sit and look at the water.
There's no place on the beach either, which is always, unless you go to why am I forgetting the name of it?
Flagler Beach.
The Bucket.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. There's no beachside dining. Never have understood that. I think we're going to have to find some creative ideas to keep, because the strip of park on the east side of Beach Street, the parks themselves are so tiny relatively, yes, and so constrained by things at either end, that developing commercial in the parks is going to be tricky. But I love the fact that Fugu has been able to take advantage of the view from the west side of the street. And maybe there's a way to do that as well.
I was thinking the same thing about that church property, because that's only one of a tiny little bit of property that could possibly still be developed I realize that this is my own fixation and not the town's, but that, you could imagine a ground floor patio eating area that would look out at the water. Maybe some condos, maybe a second
Small for
story.
condos, unfortunately.
Well, not the building as it stands now.
No, but the property itself is almost too small for condos.
Oh, I see.
Oddly enough, it's a funny shaped piece of property. But
So-
I personally don't want to see them tear that church down. I want to figure out some better way to use it, because it's a really, I mean, we don't have much mid-century modern architecture in this town, and it's certainly worth looking at. It's a 1960 building, so it's historically significant.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, for those of us who were around in 1960, we are all historically significant.
I think
Beautiful building. Please do not tear that building down. It would make a great art maybe type place or something.
There are all kinds of wonderful things we could do with that building as it stands.
Yeah,
So I
gorgeous
certainly do
building.
not want to see it torn down.
I agree.
We had a few other questions on the chat. Pam asked about, is Main Street advocating for more native plants and trees? I know that the palms that went up in the middle are not native. No.
Pam, I wish I could say yes. I certainly, every chance I get, say something, but we have not had much luck in influencing landscape.
I can totally relate to that. So,
I'd like a little shade myself, because it's
Yes.
Florida and it's hot, but
yeah,
not much luck. with
not
that.
interested, huh?
Well, it's a
I know.
thing. All these palm trees. I mean, I'm from here, and that's enough palm trees.
Norman asked about the rules for the floating dock at Casson Park.
Rules for the floating dock. The floating. Oh, that's so hard, Norman. No overnight docking. I think that's the rule.
The only rule? The one and only
Now,
rule?
there are certainly code enforcement items, but when the dock was at the process of being finished, we went to battle with the city attorney to have a lot of what he intended to do to that dock removed in terms of rules, because according to the chief of police, A, they were unenforceable, and B, they didn't make it, some of them didn't make any sense. So the city intends, let me start again. The city intends the dock to be free, to not provide any services, so there will never be electricity or fuel or water available there. They intended it as temporary dockage. Main Street has said over and over again that we would like to see the potential for one overnight stay because we would like to see people be able to come down. You know, the reason we really are behind the dock and really had pushed for it is that we see it as an economic generator. We want people to come down and have lunch, come down and have dinner,
It's not happening.
come down and walk across the bridge and go to the casements. It's a shame. If you look in the waterway guides, it says there's these lovely little paragraphs about how the great stuff there is in Ormond Beach to see, and there's historic buildings and there's this and that, and but it says literally you can't stop here. Go down, river until you, is that downriver toward Daytona Beach, until you get to I don't even know where you can go. How far do you have to go before you can tie up And then you can take a cab back.
Oh,
The yacht club down there.
Yeah. So you can take a cab back to Ormond Beach. The likelihood of that happening is pretty close to zero. So the idea that we offer access by boat to people who want to come and enjoy the town seemed economically important to us. And that's really the reason we really got behind the project. I've got lots of research that I did that shows that, you know, you by allowing a less than 24, you know, up to 20-hour stay, you 1.5 times the amount of money is spent because they come for dinner and they have breakfast, or they come for lunch and stay for dinner and then have breakfast. So, I mean, they have time to shop. They have time to do these things if they feel like they can. So, but that is not the current rule. The current rule is no overnight stays. So that's all the rules I believe there are, Norman. It's 6 feet mean low water on both sides. So there is opportunity for boats to dock on both sides. And we're trying to encourage the city to add signage at the foot of the dock that will help users find out that they can use both sides, that will help them understand that the cleats fold into the dock surface. I think I'm gonna go do a TikTok video. That's my cause for next week, is showing people how to pop up the cleats so that they know where to tie their boats up. And make it more welcoming. Main Street has, and I have found sponsors to do it. We're gonna do this shortly. Main Street itself has volunteered to create an information kiosk that will go at the end of at the land end of the dock that helps people find things. And so I raised the couple $1,000 that's gonna cost. So we're gonna buy one and give it to the city. Sorry, long answer, short question.
That's okay. I would like to see, I mean, if that is the intent, is there a way to make that happen? I mean, do you think that there are people docking at the dock and then coming to our restaurants?
There are indeed.
Okay.
And we are trying, one of the things we did last spring and now need to do again is we did a boaters weekend, what we called a boaters weekend, and we promoted it just to boating community. And if they went into the bait house and registered, gave us their email and told us, I don't think we even asked for their email. We just asked them to put down how big a boat and how many people they had. And then we gave them a paper with coupons to all the restaurants. That was very successful. We need to do it again. And we probably would do it like every other month or something to try and, the point now is to try and encourage that traffic.
To market it.
And market it. It's been kind of on my COVID hold list, but time has come.
I guess there's another question about having a shuttle. Not sure. You want to clarify about the question about a shuttle for the dock?
Oh, are you asking me?
No, I submitted the question because from what I'm hearing, and it doesn't appear the dock is achieving the goal of bringing in the amount of patrons that we had hoped or thought it would. So maybe a concept of, like you said, marketing and other things to get our money's worth out of this project and the traffic into downtown, and maybe a shuttle is needed.
Actually, a couple of folks are working on that. Kevin Wakefield, who owns The Grind, has connected me with an operator that's interested in coming perhaps and doing that. And we think, at least in the beginning, or that it would be a demand system. So you would say, there would, on that kiosk, it would say, if you need shuttle, call this number. And then the shuttle would basically be a big golf cart, come and get you and take you around and come back for pickups. And that seems to be the way to go with that. We looked, Stuart, Florida has a really fabulous electric tram. It's all electric, it's plug-in. It is in fact a really big golf cart, but our issue with electric vehicles right now is the ability to get over the bridge at a normal speed. So we kind of trying to figure out what the correct balance of availability and cost is. That's a project I'd love some help on. If somebody knows more about these kinds of services and how one puts one together, I would love to hear about it, because only one girl and many arrows that I must send out. And I think there's commercial viability there for somebody who wants to start a service. I think that, you could sell ads on the side of the bus and you could take tips. And I think you could, in fact, do that. I had a guy approach me from St. Augustine who wanted to run a regular tour bus service. And I don't think we have enough volume for that. But something small, I think we absolutely do.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before, when we sent out the notice, I did get a few questions about, one of them was about bikes, and I know Terry asked about if there's going to be more bike riding events and how to encourage bicycling in our city.
Could use some help on that one too. I am extremely interested in how that process would work for us. You guys aware of the St. John's River to Sea Trail? Okay. So the St. John's River to Sea Trail at the moment dead ends at the southwest corner of the Granada Bridge. And it picks up again on A1A, like Ann Ruston, I think, somewhere up there. So the issue is how to connect those two parts and how we get a sufficient sized trail, multimodal trail over the bridge and through the town. I know that is on FDOT's higher on FDOT's project list than it used to be. They will pay for that, but we have to find a viable route for it that meets everybody's expectations. I do think that will help. I am not a rider of bicycles, but my husband is an avid rider of the Loop, and so is my son. And that coming over the bridge on the bike lane and suddenly being met with the fact that there is no more is scary to me as a mom. And the problem seems to me as a non-rider is that there's not much clarity in where you're supposed to go from that corner forward. I know there are sharrows on the road, but I don't think sharrows do a bit of good. So when they first were talking about that, they talked about guiding people over to, so if you're coming west on the bridge, it would guide the bikes over to New Britain. And then essentially then they would come back to Granada, I guess at Washington. where where this road begins to widen again, and there might be possibilities for more bike space. I don't think that ever happened, and the same was really supposed to be true on the other side, coming east toward the bridge, that it would take you off Granada and then kind of bank you around to Beach Street and then up and over the bridge. Open to suggestions, I really am. Yeah, Terry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm an avid bike rider and that bridge is horrendous. It's very scary as a bike rider to ride over, and your bike lane ends.
Right.
On both sides. There was some talk about going down, when you come over the bridge east to west, going down, I think is it Riverside, right at the bottom of the bridge?
The Casements
Coming
Drive.
through the neighborhood like that.
Yep.
But on this side, I ride down, I normally ride on the back roads, but there is a sidewalk down, and when you get into Holly Hill, it's actually called the Pat Northey Trail, and it does start to get a little bit wider. Can we not widen that sidewalk in Ormond to make that a wide trail for bikers and walkers? It's very popular.
The issue is money, Terry. That's all I can say. And I think if we could figure out how to encourage the city to look at that possibility. There is money out there from trail funds and from St. John's River to Sea and various things where we might be able to build a coalition for that. But I don't think the city has enough of its own money right now to just say, yeah, we're going to widen this up, because some of that will impinge on the road. So I think it's not as simple as just widening the sidewalk.
Well, DeBerry is basically becoming a hub for bike riders, and there's, as a bike rider, I will tell you, we go all over the world and United States to bike ride. We spend money, and there's a lot of money, and we bring in motorcycles, we bring in speed racing cars. Can we do something to help bicyclists here? Do you think you could do something? There's not a lot downtown. Can we do something to draw them in? Would that help start getting it going?
Start with adding some bike racks.
That would help.
Bike racks and charging station. We need both those things. And I think the city would be open to supporting public bike racks. We just need to figure out where they go. I think all of these projects are doable. Public will and dollars have to go with them. And the heartening thing is that in that downtown master plan update in 2019, when people came to the public meetings, there was a real sentiment for pedestrians and bicyclists over cars. And the good news is that the Florida Department of Transportation has totally changed its outlook on how to design roads. They finally adopted in the last couple of years something called the Complete Streets program, which allows them more flexibility on how to build roads, how wide they are, how fast you go. The problem for Florida Department of Transportation is that it's fiefdoms. So what happens in Tallahassee trickles eventually down to the 5 fiefdoms, but it doesn't happen quickly. And so you can't call up District 5 and say, hey, in Tampa, they did this on the very same kinds of roads that you're talking about over here. And they will say, well, that's District 1. We don't have to do what they do. So, not that it's an insurmountable problem. It's just one of those ones that you got to keep beating your head against until the door breaks, I think. And I'm happy to talk more about that, Terry. I'd love to see us do bike-friendly things.
Me too.
Another question about traffic and probably FDOT. has Main Street pushed for 25-mile-an-hour limit on West Granada?
Funny you should say something. We have, and we're about to do it again.
Good.
So anybody wants to get on that bandwagon, please join me there. What has to happen is we have to
Yeah, because
have
it's-
the city request
they
that
need
FDOT do a study.
those cars whiz.
And then after the
Yeah,
study
yeah,
is
and
done,
slope, yeah.
then we can ask that have the speed limit reduced. There's so much good statistical evidence about reduction in accidents, reduction in noise. You know, we're never probably going to be able to widen our sidewalks much on Granada. But if we could reduce the speed and the noise, think of how much nicer it would be to walk. Right? So yeah, that's high on the current priority list. So yes, we are.
We also got a question from Belinda Davis before this event. She wanted to know about how can the historic African American community be included in the revitalization of downtown. Her roots go back really far in this area. She said her great-great-grandmother's home still stands at the corner of Washington and Mound Avenue. And her great-great-granddad was the Reverend William Amos Rose, who was one of the original members of the historic AME Methodist Church. And the missionary circle was named after his wife, her great-great-grandmother, Laura Rose Missionary Circle. And so she commented that she recalls, playing on fields that were where the police department is now, and then that the South Ormond Neighborhood Center was the only leisure park that Blacks could go to at one time. And that the Pace Center for Girls was the only elementary school that Blacks could attend, and it was named Rigby Elementary. And so she had a question about incorporating some of that history of the African American community into the revitalization.
I would love to talk to her about that. I have only the issue that by the careful drawing of that CRA district, none of that is in my district. But I don't care. I mean, I have worked, I have not yet met the new pastor at AME, but I worked with Pastor Rose when she was there, trying to help them get some dollars for some restoration issues. One of the things that is interesting about Main Street is our Florida Main Street Coordinating Program is housed in the Department of State in the Division of Historical Resources. So I have interesting access to some of this historical funding and other things like that I would not necessarily get as an economic development group. So, there's the one sign, the Sudan sign is in my district. Nothing else is actually in the district, but I would love to work with her on anything she wants. So please feel free to pass on my information.
I will do that. She wanted to know how to get involved, so I'll definitely connect you both.
Thank you.
We have a few more questions. Question about the Memorial Gardens Museum upgrade.
I'm a bystander on that, but they are well underway. Hopefully they will. Susan Richmond, who is their executive director, is a friend of mine, and she says she prays nightly for them to be done in a year, but I'm going to guess it's going to be a year and a half. The building itself, I think, will sit beautifully on that property, and they were very careful not to disturb any of the garden and when they designed the building.
And I think that's the end of the questions that we have here in the chat. Anyone else have any questions? If you want to chime in, you can unmute yourself now. Pat's raising her hand.
Are you doing any planning right now that would involve some eco funds or anything like that? Is there anything in the works?
We are not, no. I also have a toe in the Ormond Beach Arts District group, which we birthed and then pushed out, so it's its own group now. And they are helping with the PAC application that Ormond Performing Arts Center is applying for renovation funds from ECHO. But there really isn't a project for us at ECHO right now.
Any other questions?
Well, let me say that I seriously would love to hear from any and all of you. I would love to hear your ideas and what you're thinking about for downtown and for the town. I know some of you very well and some of you not at all, but I look forward to hearing from you, and whatever I can do to help or to guide you, I'm always happy to do. Even if it's just to tell you, yeah, put that one in the trash can. We tried that, it didn't work. But I don't think there are such ideas. I think they're just ideas that have to keep cycling through until you get what you want. So I'm not giving up on somebody. Yes.
Would you be interested in working with some groups on maybe convincing the city to add trees and native plants more?
I would love to hear about it.
Okay.
I really would. Because there's those opportunities can, in a small way, arise all the time when they're doing, when they're telling the landscape folks what to do, when they're doing replanting. I think that we could make some steps.
Agree.
Julia, when you have this survey for the for the feedback that you want from the citizens, how are we to know about it?
I'm going to post it on social media and send it out in an email blast. I think if I can burden Liz and Terry, perhaps, if they would make sure that you guys see it once it's out, I'll make sure that they get it. I'm going to ask the chamber to distribute it as well. So we're going to try and get it onto everybody's email list that we can. I think I'll post it on, what is that thing called? Neighborhood?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll post it there too, but I'll try and get it broadcast as widely as I can.
Oh, great.
Well, Julia, thank you so very much for your time tonight. I appreciate you coming to talk with us and
Pleasure.
telling us more about Ormond Beach Main Street. So thanks so much, and we will be in touch. Next month, just FYI for everyone who's on here, we're not going to have another board meeting. We're going to have the speaker from the health department. Or that's what we're planning on having. So 7 p.m. on April 14th on Zoom, and you'll get a link for that. So thank you everybody for coming. And I'm going to unmute if people want to talk, but I will, you can unmute yourself, I guess. Otherwise, have a good night. Bye. Did I mute? Oh, let's see. There we go.
Night, everybody.
Yeah.
That was real nice. Thank you, Julia.
Great, very informative.
Excellent information.
Yeah, we really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.